and I'll introduce. If you can pull up our PowerPoint, Omar, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I don't even get to drive the PowerPoint anymore. Hey, everybody, it's Ed Wallace, and we have a great hour or so for you today on cross-generational selling, cracking the code from boomers to Gen Z. We have some very interesting technology. We hope it works for you to engage with us. But before we are recording, everybody will get a copy of the recording and some other free stuff that we'll talk about at the end. Open your chat box if you could. You can chat in at any time. We're going to have chat exercises, and Omar's got some surprises for everybody. If you can go to my page real fast here, Omar. This is me. A lot of you know me. I even have a QR code now. How about that? How's that for a boomer entering the technology world? So link in with me, and if we go to the next page, I have a real surprise. I have a living and breathing card-carrying millennial to present this webinar today. Our new president, a longtime friend of mine, Omar Abdullah, and you're going to learn all about Omar throughout. You're going to see all of his quirky, no, just kidding. You're going to see all of his talents as we go through the webinar. And who better to talk about millennials and Gen Zs than a millennial? So Omar, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to watch the chat box. If anybody has questions throughout, feel free to chat in. I'll catch them and I'll relay them to Omar. Please mute your phone if you don't mind, or your screen if you don't mind. And go ahead, Omar, you have it.
Yeah, fantastic. So I am watching the participant folks adding. So if you see me kind of zone out for just 2 seconds, it's just me adding folks. But we wanted to kick this off, not with boring you to death with all kinds of content, but this is meant to be engaging. This is like, I don't know, the Wii, is that still relevant? I don't know. But we're gonna make this a little interactive. So I'm gonna share my screen here. You see this piece. So I'm gonna stop sharing here. And instead, I'm gonna share something else. And it's a little tool that we have that's gonna capture just an idea of who's on with us today. Go ahead and share that. All right, so there's a QR code you'll see, and you should see a little chart that says Boomer, Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z. So if you can just take out your phone and take out the camera and scan the QR code, it should take you to a link in Mentimeter, and it's going to ask you what you identify as in terms of Boomer, Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z. So I will participate. Okay, nice, dynamic, very cool. A lot of millennials, there you go. Okay, Gen X.
Come on,
boomers, take a second in order to do this.
Roy, click, look, come on, Roy, we got to get in the game here.
My favorite aspect of this is just if you just saw right now, millennials were like, bam, 5, and then Gen X came in, and then boomers are taking a second. One of them even just.
Come on, boomers, let's go, boomers.
I love it. Fantastic. Also, I know there's more than 16 people on this call. So there's 5 that are Switzerland right now, and I love that. Okay, nice. Fantastic. Okay, so we have a pretty good mix here, actually, equal across the board. That is phenomenal. So again, like I said, a lot of this is going to be a little bit more interactive. So we want to kind of see how nice, Gen X in the lead. We want to teach you how this software works. So the next question here, you'll see it's not really about generations, but we want to get you in the spirit. What is the best present?
We don't have to scan it again.
You don't have. It should just go in your thing. It should just go back to this. It should be at this question now. All right, I'm gonna fill it out. You only have to fill out one word. You don't have to fill out a bunch. Okay. Oh, nice. A dog. Track day. Fiance. That's a great present for the holiday. No tickets. Nice. Humidor. A trip. A horse. Vacation. Very cool. I think a horse is winning right now because that is amazing. Oh, fantastic. Very cool. All right, great. So now we're going to move on here. And you guys are doing fantastic, by the way. Look at all of you boomers, just like embracing technology. Fantastic. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is going to be more on target in terms of what we're trying to do. Okay. All right, now I want you to enter and be kind. Enter one word that describes boomers. It could be one. We have 3 choices.
Why wouldn't they be kind, Omar? Come on. Because we get to describe everybody else too. Oh, these are great, Omar. I feel great about myself today. Look at that. Interesting. There's my favorite. Accomplished, experienced, nice, wise.
Ooh, wow. Look at that.
Technology challenge. Somebody had to take a shot.
Who's taking shots? I love it. I love it. Fantastic. Experience seems to be the one word that's really resonating.
Yep.
Also, I love the word vintage. I'm not old, I'm vintage. I love that. Fantastic.
Hey, somebody's not on mute. If you could please mute your phone, your screen, you're not muted, and I don't know who it is. There we go. We got it.
Fantastic. All right. I think we got 25 responses on that. This is fantastic. I gotta take a photograph.
Come on, we got to do the Gen Xers, Omar.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Okay, great. Okay, here we go. Next one. Gen X. Okay, nice. Bridge, independent. They're like the bridge type of generation.
No, mine didn't go through.
Written by a true Gen Xer.
Well, I got to put this in here.
Trying to keep up, caring, meticulous. Tough. Spelled that way. It's cool. We got thoughtful, rogue. Well, I like that one. As if they drive a Nissan Rogue or they're rogue as a personality. I think that's the question. Busy, caring, thoughtful. Independent seems, again, cool word. I love that.
I like the Casual Friday one myself.
Oh, flex time, Casual Friday. Cool. Okay. Fantastic. Let's move on to, I think I'm excited for this next one. This is,
oh yeah,
I'm curious. I'm curious. I'm curious. Okay.
I can't wait. Impatient, Omar. You're not impatient, Omar.
Flexible, thoughtful, curious. The future. I like that one. Some could argue the present, but I get it. Good managers.
Like text. Text.
Cool. Okay. Let's go to Gen Z.
Oh boy.
Emojis. That's amazing. Super cool.
In our chat, we have tattoos. That was Misty.
No cap.
I I thought it was latte, not late. I latte went into my head.
That's awesome.
All due respect to all generations, though. We're just having a little bit of
Yeah.
fun. We
Oh,
can
that
actually
high
talk a lot
five is
about it.
amazing.
Yep.
That emoji that came out, whoever did that won this round. Riz, that is the Oxford Dictionary Word of the Year. So this, you guys are, this group is quite something. Awesome. Awesome. But we have the most to say about Gen Z, and we don't have a single Gen Z on the call in this webinar. I love that. Cool. All right. Fantastic. Trendsetter. All right. Great, you guys. Thank you so much. We're going to head back here to our presentation. This was great. I think a lot of the insights that we have from this from this little interactive session, you're going to find echoed in the content that we're going to share here. So I'm going to go back to our deck. Let's go here. Great. Great. Just want to make sure. Y'all can see this. It's on my bio right now. Just want to make sure. Okay, fantastic. So again, you're going to see a lot of these themes echoed, and we want to talk a little bit about the objectives in terms of what are we trying to accomplish here today. And broadly, it's
Omar, we just have the cover page. We have like the outline view. We don't have the slide sorter view, and you're still on the cover page.
Let me
see that a baby boomer jumping in and doing his thing. There you go.
He's doing his thing. Okay, fantastic.
This technology, I got it, man. I got it.
How about now?
Yeah, we have your presentation view, but I think that's okay.
Okay, here, I'll
because we see the second slide, Omar. You know,
yeah,
I can come down to Austin and help you with this.
Come on.
I can get on a plane. And, yeah,
come on.
I can
this
do
is
it.
this is I'm shaming my generation right now.
Yes, you are. And it's all being recorded, and I'm going to post it.
I'm trying to get out of presenter view, but I guess it's not letting me. That's fine. Okay, well, what we want to go over the objectives in terms of what we're trying to accomplish is really about, for me to give a landscape analysis of why are we presenting this content right now? We have a situation where we have 4 to 5 generations in the workplace right now, which is atypical. And so what does that mean? What's the landscape? What's the context? And what do we do about it? And that's where the idea of relationships and selling come into. How do we take this insights and these this sort of background to our advantage? That's going to be a lot of the focus here today. And I just want to maybe call out one thing in terms of where I situate. Again, I've been at Achieve Next for now 3 months, which has been feels like 15 years. And we've been talking, Ed and I feel like we've been talking about cross-generational relationships for a long time. And this is just something that everyone's really interested to learn more about. And my background in this is, I used to be a sociology professor. So I studied this in an academic setting. And now, I want to take that learning and bring it more into an enterprise sort of context. So what I want to start here with a little bit is to talk about the generations in the workplace. So we have alignment as to who's who in the zoo. And so we have boomers, right? This is stuff that we already know. But what I wanted to put here in terms of for millennials, I saw one of the comments on the interactive session was the future. Well, interestingly enough, millennials are now the biggest labor block in the workforce today at 35%. And in fact, recently, we've seen that the Gen Z is going to overtake boomers. Either it's already happened or we're right at the cusp of that happening. So there's a bit of a reckoning happening in terms of the larger workplace. And like you can see here, Gen Z will probably become the leading block by 2030 by all estimates. This was a study done by Forbes. So we're heading in that direction. So we really need to know who's going to be the buyer, who's in the buying committee, who's the decision maker. So we need to understand the decision maker in order to be understood. See it here. Okay, great. You can see the characteristics of boomers. And again, I want to just put a little caveat here of the fact that, we're going to talk about characteristics. One thing to be clear, though, is that no generation is a monolith, right? Ed just schooled me on presenting technology, which I think is the end of my career, my short-lived career. It just ended today. But everyone's different, right? So some folks have some kind of background that makes them unique. But again, we need to understand the broader context. So if you look at boomers here, this really aligns well with all of your insights in that Mentimeter session we just did. But we need to understand, again, so many huge changes happen during the formative years of boomers, right? We talk about the Vietnam War, we talk about civil rights movements. I mean, the assassination of JFK, that happened, right? During a generation that was formative. That shapes your point of view in terms of what the world is and what it ought to be. And so they're motivated by company loyalty. You see a lot of times boomers stay in a specific company for a long time, really like to enable teamwork towards the larger mission. And there's just a larger understanding of, hey, achievement happens, reinforcement happens after you do the work, right? Which seems very logical, but they really are, that implicit logic is central to how they see the workplace and how they view relationships on a one-to-one basis. Now we go to Gen X in terms of what undergirds their sort of milieu. And that's a fancy way of, I guess, saying landscape. The professor comes out of me. I apologize. I'm trying to get rid of him. But in terms of
I wrote down milieu. That's another thing that'll be in your review later tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
technology and milieu, we're going to have to work on those.
But basically, Gen X, someone said flexible, casual Fridays. Yeah, right. It's, again, this idea that you have massive, what we would call from a industry standpoint, the 90s, early 2000s, you see a change in terms of the financialization of industry. So, manufacturing jobs sort of, they change, and there's a lot more of white collar roles coming up. Folks are looking to kind of move up the corporate ladder. So kind of corporate culture undergirds a lot of what Gen X is sort of going through. And they are looking for, how does that pair to work-life balance, to their professional and personal interests? How is a job going to help them achieve their personal goals, right? So you start seeing that, and they really are a bridge. I think that was another word we saw, between that sort of work ethic from boomers to what we see today at the landscape, which I know we have a lot of opinions about. But really are, you see kind of people having shorter tenures in roles when they're Gen X, because it's really about their long-term career trajectory as it ties to their personal and professional goals. Had to include, the classic freeze frame from I think that's Breakfast Club. Millennials, this is a group that we hear a lot about, the largest labor bloc in the workforce today, and very much civic-minded, open-minded on diversity and are achievement more oriented. You really have to think about what were the massive watershed events that happened during their formative years. We're talking about the Great Recession. A lot of these folks got degrees and were basically told, hey, remember that degree that you paid lots and lots and lots of money for? Yeah, there's no jobs for that. So what are you going to do about that? Right? And so out of that, you see gig economy come out. So people have a lot of side jobs as a part of their main work that they do. Look for that flexibility in terms of what their personal brand is for their larger career trajectory. And so really look at the quality of their manager. They're that whole saying about people don't leave companies, they leave their managers, something to that effect. Millennials are all about that. They really want to be developed by their manager. So they're looking for great leadership to guide them. And they're seeking growth and development and furthering that Gen X mold of work-life balance. But, if they don't think that the organization aligns with their values, they move on, right? So they don't really have a lot of tie-in in that kind of sense. And then this is the most interesting group. One that I've seen in multiple ways. I've managed them both in like a company perspective, and then I've also taught them at the university level. Fascinating group. And there's always a lamenting of Gen Z in terms of these kids enter whatever, you wanted to say in that Mentimeter piece that we did. But this group is extremely resourceful and sees themselves as agents of change across the board, right? So they don't really identify with a company as much as they do with their own personal brand. Because, and again, you have to realize what's sort of happening in the market right now. There's a whole thing of Web3. There is crypto. There is technology is now decentralized, and folks have more of a voice than they ever did. They can monetize their content. That's the whole thing. So they're not seeing their success tied to any organization or function. They're seeing their success tied to their ability to communicate and reach larger audiences. The other thing to really think about with this group is that they've grown up with a screen their whole life. So one thing to, this is a caveat, is that boomers, Gen X, and maybe the older millennials, while they were being parented, and this has been, I'm not the first one to talk about this has been talked about and researched heavily, is that from a parenting perspective, there was a lot of free play and independent play for kids growing up that were boomer, Gen X, and older millennials, meaning you were allowed to be bored. Think about that, right? Kids that are being parented today, or younger millennials and Gen Z, they constantly had some kind of gratification, whether it be digital, whether it be activity-based. They're not allowed to be alone. And so because of that, there's a lack of organizational resilience sometimes that needs to be cultivated, that needs to be taught, that otherwise to us seems like, well, duh, like you work your hours, you get your reinforcement. A lot of these times with the younger generation, they don't see that logic as being implicit. They don't understand how that works. And so again, that may seem obvious to some, but it's actually truly revolutionary to other folks. And so that's one of the things that we're going to talk a little bit about in terms of how do you build relationship.
I'm gonna run something by here, Omar. If you would just hit display settings, you can swap the view. Why don't you try that? And let's let a boomer coach you through. You see display settings up at the top of your screen there?
I'm trying to, display settings here.
Oh, yours didn't work.
Yeah, it's being mean to me.
It's not behaving. Okay. I just wanted to try to show off, but
I know. We got so excited, but for some reason it's just not giving.
If you hit this up there in the next to tab, hit that again, hit display where you had there in the bottom. There you go. Then no, where you there you go, right there. Hit that.
It's giving me another option for some reason. I don't know what happened.
I didn't even interrupt you. I just thought I'd show off.
No, please. Here, this is gonna do it. I'm 100% positive that this is gonna fix it. Boom.
There you go. Thank you, John White, sales enablement expert extraordinaire.
There you go. Fantastic. All right. I think I'm even getting captions now. So this is
fine.
Next level.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So one thing I want to maybe talk a little bit about is what do we do with this information, right? These are interesting insights, but what is to be done? And so let's kind of talk a little bit about modes of communication. And this is our first step, right? In terms of building relationship, or what do we do with this information? And this is these are kinds of insights that have been researched heavily in terms of, surveys and how do you like to communicate? And so with boomers across the board, right? And again, there are going to be folks that don't maybe align with this, but across the board, they value face-to-face communication, phone and email, more direct communication. And before having a discussion, they like background information. Seems obvious, but it actually is, different generations view background information differently. And so I actually had the best example. I had a boomer boss, and he's the best. And I remember I would text things to him or I'd email him things. And he was like, would you just call me, please? And I was like, got it. You like for me to just call you. And I found that was once I figured that out, I was like, got it. This totally changes the dynamic of our relationship, is that I just need to call you rather than to text you and send you fancy gifts. That's not your cup of tea. Fantastic. Gen X, they're really into informal flexible communications with a preference of using like email, phone, text. So it's omni-channel is what we'd call it, right? It doesn't have to be overtly formal. They maybe don't need to know the entirety of the picture. They can fill in the gaps sometimes, right? But it's still aligned with, from a communication standpoint, you still need to use major streams of communication to get your point across. And really being professional in etiquette, right? Writing a nice pleasantry on top, not just writing the body of the email in the subject line. They like to be communicated with nice kind of civil sort of professional etiquette. Now, millennials are all about fast, authentic communication. So the things that rub millennials the wrong way is a larger kind of like, I am doing corporate work and I am doing, we're working towards X, Y, and Z goal. They really want you to be real with them, right? They look and value for authenticity. And so whichever communication mode aligns best with that, that's something that they're really going to value. And it's all about efficiency and getting your message out as soon as possible. So if you're trying to write a, 10-page or a huge email, this didn't need to be so fully baked for them to get the point across. They can, again, fill in the gaps and be quite dynamic. Gen Z, whole nother ball game. So they are all about the micro aspect of content. Best example of this, again, this is more in the academic context, but I found this worked quite well in a professional context as well, or in industry, is that like I would ask them to write papers and he just didn't want to do it. Right? It's like, I don't want to write papers. I don't want to write long kind of communication. I was like, fine, why don't you make a video about it? Boom. They were so nuanced in their understanding of screen, framing, music, aesthetic. In fact, in studies that I've done about Gen Z, they found that a majority of them are wanting jobs in media. Whether that's, marketing, data analytics, content design, that's something they really, really value, is their ability to get their message across in any kind of format. And you're right now seeing, they like, the immediacy of Snapchat, YouTube, TikTok in particular. That's such a hot button topic. I think that long-term, that's going to grow at scale. And pretty soon they're going to be able to craft their own kind of, medium to get their point across and build community and connections. So there's a lot there to unpack. So I've just thrown a lot at you in terms of the various generations, some of which you may align with, some of which you were like, this is nonsense. But regardless, these themes are present. And what I think I want to now pivot to and tee up our good friend Ed Wallace here is what's our relationship challenge in thinking about cross-generationally. So Ed, it's your puppy. What are you going to do about this information?
Thanks, Omar. And I appreciate you letting us have a little fun with you, technology challenge millennial you. Anyway, so everyone, we all know that regardless of the generation, regardless of the medium and the mode of communication, we've got to build relationships. And, the whole purpose of this webinar is, okay, how do I sell cross-generationally? So I think Omar gave us a fantastic base to work from. We're actually going to have an exercise for you at the end on this. But, there's all kinds of research on relationships. That's the business Achieve Next is in. We are in the relationship building business. We help the largest companies in the world do that. And some of the research indicates the following on the next page. If you could change, please, Omar. We're not even getting 50% of the potential from our relationships. Chat in why you think that is. I'm going old school here, Omar. None of this Mendy stuff, just chat in why you think this is. See if we can get a couple of responses. If you could just suspend the disbelief around the research details and just respond to the point on the screen.
Lack of trust. We had lack of trust from Michael.
From Simon, yep. From Simon. Turnover. Thanks, Michael. People are too busy.
Yeah.
Good job, Holly. Whitney, no time to grow. Right. We have plenty of time to do email. And we have plenty of time to go to meetings. but we don't have enough time to build relationships. Yeah, relationships are really important. I think 90% of the people in the same survey said they're the most important thing. Lack of consistency. Hey, Mark, our good friend Mark's on here, Omar. Thanks, Avery. Communication, you trying to be friends instead of adding business value. Right. We want them to like us rather than maybe do business with us. If they like us, maybe they'll buy from us. I don't know about that. Not always the case. Jennifer says people uncomfortable and non-confrontational. Good point.
Yeah.
Hey, Brick, how you doing, Brick? Company culture. Wow, that has so much to do with it. So much to do with it. Is it every CEO says in most businesses, my business is built on relationships. And whenever they say that, I ask him or her, what are you doing about that? Right? What are you doing intentionally about that? Relationships are a long-term investment. Thank you, John Milton. We don't maintain them. Right. We take them for granted. And we're not flexible enough. Great answers. Wow. We knocked the doors off of that, Omar. See that? See what a boomer can do with one page? How many pages did you need, Omar? I needed one.
I think about 10.
Let's
10.
keep going. Let's keep going. I hope you all know how much I love and respect Omar. He's the president of our company now. At my behest. Let's keep going.
Okay. Next slide.
Yes, sir. So there's three qualities that go into what we call relationship or relational capital. And I've got a prize. And I know a few of you might know this because a few of you have been on our webinars before. I have a prize for the first person who can give me the definition of credibility. What is the definition of credibility? I'm just checking our time. We're doing good. Chat in the definition of credibility. Well, we got some really great answers here as well. I just couldn't get to them all. Got a prize for you. I got to find the prize here, Omar. I thought I'd had one ready. Hold on.
Trustworthy and loyal.
You know what? That's if you can go to the next part of the slide. That's actually the second answer. But Joanne, there she is from long distance. Believability, and that's the definition of credibility is the power to elicit belief. And if you think about the way relationship forms, whether it be business or personal, that person has to feel we're believable and worth their time before they actually can start doing stuff with us and trusting us. So Joanne, I think you might already have an electronic version, but you're going to get a real version. And if you already have this version of this book by your favorite author, that's me, we'll find another book that I wrote for you. So I think I have your address, Joanne, but just shoot it to me again. So believability is the power to elicit belief. What Whitney said is integrity, standing behind what you say and do. But that requires two people. But believability is one person. If you can click one more or two more, Omar, just to finish the page, one more. And just being ourselves because everybody else is taken. They're the three qualities that go into every business relationship you have. They're always at play. And they form this capital, this asset, relational capital, people and money. And if we go to the next page with that as a foundation, chat in, when do you think business relationships really begin? And I emphasize really here. And John White, you know the answer. You can't chat this in, okay? Got some good stuff coming in. First impressions from Michael, an introduction, Jennifer. Once credibility is established. Nice play, Brick. I love that name, Brick. Isn't that a great name, Omar? Holly says when the contact responds, okay. Once credibility is established, like Brick is around it. The first ask from Milton, when people start to trust each other. Wait a minute, what was that one? Share the important data. Mark is going to get the prize here, I think. Reports that. So go to the next page, please, Omar. When every answer is on target, but think about it. A business relationship, unless we understand what someone's trying to accomplish or what they really care about or what they're struggling with, it's more, what's the word I want to use? Not an ethereal relationship, but it's more of an acquaintance type relationship. But once someone shares with us what we call relational GPS, something they're trying to accomplish, that's the goal, that's the G, something they care about deeply and or the struggle. And if we can go to the next page, Omar, so Mark, we'll get you something. GPS systems, the roadmap to travel success. What would we do without them? If we go to our next page, relational GPS is a universal framework for any business relationship across any generation. We've trained over 30,000 people at this point. And I just did a program for a Middle Eastern company. And we had people from all over the Middle East and all over like that part of Europe there and Asia. They had GPS. I think Omar excluded, most millennials have goals, passions, and struggles, right? My son Grant he's a Gen Z. He's got goals, passions, and struggles. John White, I don't want to age you, John, but I know you're an X. You've got goals, passions, and struggles. And you, Hornsby, you're my age. You've got goals, passions, and struggles. We've talked to people in Australia. I was just in Canada, South America. Everybody has in business has something they're trying to accomplish, something they care about deeply, hopefully, and what human being doesn't have struggles. The key is locating that. And we locate that through inquiry. We locate that through asking great questions. So just for fun, you just met Omar or me. Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Omar, I'm throwing a curveball at you. We didn't practice this. All right.
Roll.
You just met Omar. What would you ask Omar? After you shook hands, you saw him at a conference, and you recognize he's a millennial. What would you ask Omar? Tell me about yourself.
I'm a Pisces.
Good job, Brick. I know. I don't think Brick meant that. Whitney's got a great. When did you start to become interested in your field of study? That's a really nice opening question.
Really good one.
Yep. Where are you from? Hey, what's wrong with where are you from? People love talking about where they're from. In most cases, why are you at the conference? Okay, now let's see if we get any more. What do you do for work? Nice, Brick. Oh, why did you leave teaching? So maybe they got your bio. Yeah, because you wanted to work with me, Rob. That's why he left teaching. That's why. So he's got a PhD in rhetoric. I don't know what you sell with rhetoric, but I mean that's his PhD.
I'm here, aren't I? Okay.
Now, would you ask that question any differently to me? So you're meeting me now. We're at a round table at a conference. Maybe it's lunchtime or something. If you'd ask, would anybody ask it differently? Let's see if we get any different questions. We may not, because it's the initial outreach, right? Let's see. Anybody have anything? Roy Schindel, tell me something about yourself that I won't find on the internet. That's a really great question, Roy.
Love that. Do you like blue cheese? That is awesome. That is awesome.
Thank you, Brick. I love to sign a book. I think I sent you a book, Brick. When you decide, so Whitney did a little research on this baby boomer, and she found out a few things, and she was ready for the conversation. Think about it, you go to conferences. There are people we should try to target to meet, but when we meet them, what are we bringing to the table in that conversation? So just a little fun exercise. I think there was a few things, a few nuances there generationally, and there was a few nuances there based on experience.
I love, Ed, I just love that. Like the questions are from a generational context. from, you're asking a millennial, maybe it's a little bit more of an authentic question. Maybe with a Gen Z, it's something so like within their specific zeitgeist that's of interest to them, right? That's fascinating. I love that.
What's your story? How'd you start here? Nice. So let's go to the next page. So relational GPS, again, if you leave with anything today other than the, your memory of the poor humor we had going back and forth, you really have to invest to learn that. LinkedIn is wonderful. We all use it, and it's a powerful tool. John White taught me all about LinkedIn. I've got so much better at it. By the way, if anybody wants to see a great normal person LinkedIn page, and I mean that with all due respect, John, check out John White Sales on LinkedIn. It's a great model for how to create your own profile on LinkedIn if you're in sales or some kind of client customer facing capacity. So check out John White Sales. I do that to him all the time. But GPS takes time and investment. It takes discovery. It takes looking at a relationship long term. And there's an old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover until you read the story. The story is relational GPS. Every generation has it. And I find it a cop-out when I hear someone say, I just can't relate to this millennial, or I just can't relate to this boomer, or, how do you work with Gen Zs? Well, first question I ask is, what do you know about what they're trying to accomplish? Duh. Or, are they struck? What do they care about? Maybe we find those things out. A lot of folks on here are running and leading teams, and I'm sure you've got different generations on those teams. How are you interacting with them around their relational GPS? So let's go to the next one. I think we're coming near the home stretch here, Omar. Oh, we got our exercise. We put together a very simple, capability builder, action planning template. I think you could probably create your own similar to this. And I know what we were going to do. Before we do this, go back to the previous one. I forgot we're going to do this. Just for fun, okay? Because we're going to talk about communicating generationally. Chat in, and then we'll get to our exercise. Chat in the first name that if you're thinking of a baby boomer, chat in a baby boomer's first name, just for fun. What would a baby boomer's first name be? George.
Oh my gosh. Harold.
Somebody said Ed, right? That's not appropriate, Brick. Come on, man. Okay. Chat in a Gen X's first name. Milton said Bob. Whitney. They're putting their own names in here. Paige. Graham. Tyler.
Gosh.
John is a great. Misty is Heather. Let's see what's a lot. Tom. Okay, chat in a millennial. Omar. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Like Aiden River. Oh my gosh, this is priceless. Justin, Jillian.
What is a typical Generation X name?
Who said that?
X, often shortened to Gen X, is the demographic cohort following the baby boomers.
Who was that? Was that Sanal who looked at? Jennifer Snow.
All right, should we go?
All right, last one. Gen Z. Ezra.
Oh yeah.
Really, Ezra is?
Oh yeah.
Raiden, Caitlin, Dylan, Avery. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah, Reed, Liam. Yeah, Jalen, and spelled a million ways.
So many spellings.
Megan.
Hashtag. That's the winner of today's.
Jennifer has the best sense of humor today. She really does.
That was amazing.
Reed, Elijah. I think is that one of your grandkids' names, Roy? That you might have mentioned that before. Riz. Okay. So again, I just want to kind of warm us up again because we're going to do that. You're going to do an exercise on this now. So now we'll go to the next page. And we are doing great on time. So I have this little worksheet for you. And it's a cross-generational selling capability builder. You can call it an action plan, whatever you want to call it. You notice we have an example. We've got Meredith, the millennial. I think that name is a millennial name, Omar.
I think Michaela or Mackenzie.
Meredith.
Mackenzie would have done it.
Madison, right? So why is my business relationship with Meredith important? Well, she decides 25% of my quota next year. What do I know about Meredith's GPS? She's a hypo. She wants to be C-level, loves to travel, and she struggles with representing my value proposition to her boomer boss. I think one of the things I've learned over the years is the biggest challenge we have in sales is having our sponsor, if they're not the final decision maker, and a lot of times they aren't, carry our value proposition to the actual decision maker. So Omar's going to take you through a little exercise here on how to develop a relationship strategy for Meredith to get our proposal approved by her boss. I think that's what the exercise was, Omar.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is where, right? And again, this webinar, we're really talking about context, modes of communication as being a way to land on building that relationship. So let's sort of break it down a little bit. So if we went back to our communication guide, you know, Meredith the millennial had to alliterate. You know, she comes from a kind of block that's really interested in authentic communication, fast communication, right? That's something that they really value. And so if I was to think about that, up to, okay, so I have to be authentic, right? They value that. And then she has a boomer boss who, like we talked about earlier, you know, needs a lot of background information, needs a lot of detail, and really needs it to be broken down in terms of how this all ties together. And that seems to be a gap that Meredith has in connecting with her boss. So we think about GPS, a relationship strategy then needs to think about what is our strategy with Meredith. And that's going to be, you know what, we need to be authentic with Meredith. That means that we need to meet her where she's at, right? So let's, you know, maybe be more flexible in our communication. You know, maybe we should ask her, hey, you know, how do you like to communicate? That's a great question to ask, and allow her to maybe fill in the gap and be like, oh, you know what? Here's my number, just text me. Fantastic. And then that way we can be fast and agile and also be authentic about, you know, what we think and believe in terms of advancing that relationship. Secondly, you know, on the point about vendor value, you know, if we just talked about, hey, here's what we do, here's our product, yada, 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 fantastic. That's not really going to help her provide the value proposition of the vendor to her boomer boss. So maybe what we can do is think about ways that we can create visuals detailing what exactly the value of our product or service is, and tie that out to the business's goals as at large. Maybe there needs to be a tie-in, and that collateral will help them accomplish that goal to make it somewhat frictionless to get approval on whatever budget or whatever goal that Meredith has. So of course, this seems quite easy and cut and dry, and things are a little bit messier, but you understand how this tool gives us a framework as a starting off point to be like, okay, so now I understand voice of the customer from a building relationship standpoint to accomplish our broader goal and get our relationship strategy in sync. So that's sort of like an example of how we can proceed and kind of filling this out.
You know, thank you, Omar. Great stuff. You know, relationships are like crafting fog, right? Everybody's different. But we're trying to give you some swim lanes here. You know, you think about it. Okay, you know, what generation is our customer or our prospect? Why do I need a relationship with this person? And you notice in the GPS, the key thing we learned was she's got a boomer boss. So we've got to manage the relationship in our strategy with her. But how do we help her sell to her boomer boss for us. I was at a conference. I spoke at the Strategic Account Management Association conference last year, and I'll sit and listen to other speakers. They're not as good as me, but I'll listen to them. No, just kidding, no more. This fellow did some great research, all kidding aside, on how little time we get as salespeople in the final decision-making time frame of the sales process. We get a lot up front, and then we get a little bit on the end, but in that middle piece, so the closer we get to having a great relationship with Meredith, the longer we're going to get time in that piece, and the less of that dark time. I know we've all have that, right? Oh my gosh, they've gone dark on us. What does that mean? They won't return my emails, all those kind of things. I did everything they asked me to do. What is going on? Well, we want to try to extend and get more of that, of the time in there, and creating a relationship strategy that aligns with the decision maker and the sponsor or the coach, or whatever we call Meredith in this case, is a great way to go. Any questions on this simple tool before we ask you to do a quick exercise? I think we have enough time, just enough time maybe to do a little piece of it. Everybody good with this? Okay. So we don't have time for you to do the whole thing, but I thought it might be interesting for you to think about a top prospect right now. Okay, think about a top prospect, their generation, and what their goal is. So just chat in, okay? Maybe the name of the top prospect, first name. I don't think that'll give anything away. What gen, and what are they trying to accomplish? Remember, it's a top prospect, so we should know what they're trying to accomplish. So let's see what you come up with. Name, gen, and a goal. This might take a minute, Omar.
Yeah, they're really thinking. I'm curious what the one syllable name that they'll have for the boomer.
That's what I'm waiting for.
If that's their gen. It's always one syllable.
Oh, stop. Stop.
Tim.
Edward is not one syllable.
Ed.
Okay. Edward is not one syllable. Okay. I shortened it to make it easy for people.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that chat box is like a slot machine, Omar. That was a great question I just asked. Grant Wallace better chat something in there.
Jim Boomer. This is from Brick.
Yeah, nice.
Jim is a name. See, one syllable. Jim. Boomer, and become a VP. Whitney's got one too.
Yep. Can always count on Whitney and Brick.
There you go. So Whitney put a name Catherine, Gen X.
That makes
goal is
sense.
getting projects done on time and on budget, having partners she can rely on for anything at any time.
And that could be a struggle if she doesn't have good partners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the things that we find as folks are still thinking is people buy from people who they share goals with. That's why I brought up goals. And if we don't really attach to the goals they're trying to accomplish, I'm sure, Brick's a pretty experienced, seasoned, he's a sales leader himself. He knows that in his work, helping Jim the Boomer become a VP is going to probably help him along. And that could be, getting something processed sooner. That could be awarding something that his team needs from him that, they didn't contract for. And Catherine, the same thing. But if we don't understand the goals of the person we're working with, and maybe there's a personal goal in there. There you go, Brick. I'd say both. All right, we'll give it another minute, then we'll get to our free stuff and we'll wrap up. Got 4 minutes.
So if we thought a little bit about these, and in the example that Whitney gave, what would be like a first step to a relationship strategy on that? Like, what would we do?
You asking Whitney, you asking me?
I'm asking you.
You're asking me.
Yeah.
Well, I would make sure whatever commitments I make to Catherine, they are on the time frame I committed. I would try to make meetings with Catherine more efficient and take less of her time. What else did she say here? Having partners she can rely on. Sometimes the partners you can rely on refer you to other partners that they can rely on. So there's just some real simple little things, again, without knowing more of the background. Let's go to our last page, Omar.
All right.
It's our last page. You just hit the button, Omar, it'll advance. Okay, it's called PowerPoint. Okay. So everybody's going to get a copy. Grant's going to send everybody out. Grant's my son. He's working in our company now for 3 years. Very proud to have him here. He's going to send you a copy of the recording and the deck. You'll get a ebook if you don't already have one. I think Joanne gets a signed book. I think Joanne might have that book. So Joanne, tell me what you have and don't have. If you want to talk with a real living and breathing card carrying millennial about this stuff, text or email Grant. What was it? Text or email Grant, and Omar will give you 30 minutes of his time. All the kidding aside, this young man is brilliant. I met him as a customer years ago. How much did we add to your top line, Omar, in 1 year? How much? Tell them.
It was a PE-backed healthcare play. It was started at 12 million, and then after the program, we added about 35 million new sales. So
by hiring him, I lost my best reference.
Yeah,
right?
It's gone now.
But again, incredibly brilliant young person, and our company is in his hands now. So he's talking with VPs of sales all day, just like I am. Probably something you can glean from having a conversation with him. So text Grant right now or email him. And with that, we are ready to sign off, Omar.
Hey,
you're welcome, Brick.
Thank you all so much. And appreciate the time that you gave to us, and looking forward to having more conversations.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Great to see some friends on here too. People I already know, and meet some new friends.